Good morning, class. This is Unit 1, Constitutional Refresher. We're going to try to get through slides 1 through 51 in this session. So if you can open up your Chromebook to the Constitution PowerPoint. Now, as you're doing that, let me kind of discuss with you our objectives for today. We're going to try to get through the Articles of Confederation, the problems and the advantages, Shays' Rebellion, and the initial Constitutional Convention with the emphasis on the compromises. Now, this is a very complicated document, and its importance cannot be understated. So right now, we should turn to slide 2. We're going to go back into the 1776 period. The Revolutionary War is over. Now, I know you're saying, wait a minute, Mr. Woods, we've already done this period of time. We did it in 8th grade. Why are we talking about it now when we should be doing the 20th century? Well, the Constitution is one of those pivotal moments that is going to continue to have an impact on our studies of the 20th century and the 21st century for that matter. If you look at American history, you can really boil down most of what happens to a discourse over what the Constitution means and how it should be applied to our society. So we need to have a good understanding of the Constitution at its basic core. This PowerPoint will provide that for you. On your DOK 1s, being the first unit, you'll notice that I went ahead and filled in the information for you. That's going to be a useful cheat sheet for you. But please pay attention to the PowerPoint. Take notes as you feel necessary. So, after the American Revolution, let's turn to slide 3 and look at our question to consider. And we're going to stop the video at this point, and I would like you, with a partner, to discuss what should 6 basic tasks or goals of a national government be in regards to their responsibilities. So we're going to go ahead and stop the video, talk with your partner. We'll have a small discussion on that, and then we'll get back to the material. All right, now that we've kind of created a list of goals and objectives, let's see how the Articles of Confederation, which was the initial form of government the United States adopted. Now, not many people remember this form of government because it only lasted about 9 years, and it's going to be eventually replaced by the U.S. Constitution that we know today. So let's look at the Articles of Confederation briefly and see what they did well, and more importantly, let's see what they didn't do well and how that ultimately had to be rectified with the Constitution. Now, if you go to slide 4, you'll see that the colonists very much wanted their independent colonial control, but they also understood the need for a strong, unified national government. You turn to slide number 5, 1777, we see that the Articles of Confederation is adopted. If you go to slide 6, the Articles had 1 vote per colony. So a large colony had the same amount of power as a small colony, because each of these colonies had just endured a very difficult relationship with Great Britain, and they were very much worried about an abuse of power from a government that was not local. Now, we don't always think of the federal government as very far away, but in this time period, the federal government could be considered very far away from a place like South Carolina or Massachusetts. So, if we go to slide number 7, the Articles of Confederation understood that they needed to be able to defend themselves. So they had the right to declare war. They had the right to control the military. And certainly they needed to have 1 voice for foreign affairs. Next slide, slide 8. They created the Northwest Ordinance, which was remarkably successful in colonizing and incorporating new states as the United States population moved west. And we all know eventually we reached the West Coast and established the large dominant country that we have today. If you go to slide 9, it just gives you a little more information about the Northwest Ordinance. We don't really need to get into that for this particular unit. Slide 10, you see some of the states which come out of this Northwest Ordinance. But what I really want to focus on is what's happening now with slide number 11, the issues that didn't work. The Articles of Confederation ultimately had no power to police themselves. They were not permitted to regulate trade between the colonies. And most importantly, they couldn't force a tax. They couldn't require colonies to pay them money. And that was a problem, because for any government to be successful, they have to have a source of income. And without the ability to force taxes, they had to rely on begging and pleading. And I'm sure all of us have had an experience where we would like to get some money and we have to ask somebody for it, and it's not an easy thing to do. We also didn't have a unified money system and a lot of growing distrust between the states. Because of that lack of continuity, especially from the policing end and the financial end, problems quickly arose. The United States government quickly found itself in debt and had to go to the states to ask for money. And as you might imagine, the states were not eager to help out, if you will. All of this, if you want to go to slide number 14, leads to a terrible financial depression. The depression was really rooted in a distrust between the states and a lack of faith in a federal government, because the Articles of Confederation was so weak. The federal government was really not able to successfully resolve problems. It was more a loose confederation than one national government. And it all came to a head with a farmer by the name of Daniel Shays, a former colonial soldier, who organized a mob up in New England and attacked the courthouse over the financial woes of the country. George Washington himself had to go up there and resolve the situation. But the Articles of Confederation in this whole Shays rebellion was proven to be ineffective, and they decided they need to sit down and they need to work out the bugs. That working out process is going to be known as the Constitutional Convention. But if you turn to slide 18,